Welcome everybody, good morning to all, and in today's lecture we will discuss about the two chapters, that is your general anesthetics and sedative hypnotics. We have seen in the previous lectures when we was discussing about the anatomy physiology, we have already completed. So drug acting on CNS, what are the different classes of drug that will act on CNS? What are the different categories of drug that will act on CNS? So what will be the probable categories of drug that will act on CNS? So these are nothing but the drug may act as a analgesic, narcotic analgesic. They are narcotic analgesic. That means they will relieve your pain, acting via centrally. Then anxiolytics, sedative, hypnotics. These three terms are I will explain these three terms in upcoming slides. Don't worry. What are the different kinds of drug that will act on CNS? So narcotic analgesics, sedative, hypnotics, then anxiolytics, then again anticonvulsants are there, then general anesthetics are there, then your antipsychotics are there, then drug used in the treatment of Alzheimer's and Parkinson disease, so they are also covered under the drug acting on CNS. Then your CNS stimulants are there, then local anesthetics are there. So these are the category of drug that will act on CNS. So we will see all the drugs one by one. So in today's lecture we will generally mostly discuss the general anesthetics and sedative hypnotics, these kind of drugs. So first of all, you should know how there is a neuronal excitability, how there is a propagation of impulse. So we'll just quickly revise it. So excitability of neuron. So neuron is nothing but the structural and functional unit of your nervous system. Everything depends on your neuron. So excitability of neuron, how there is excitability of neuron, we have seen in the previous lecture also. So there is a entry of your sodium ion inside the cell, so there will be disturbance of your inside cell potential. Okay, so inside the cell potential is nothing but the minus 22 minus 110 millivolt. Okay, so if there is a entry of cation inside the cell, there is a disturbance of your inside potential, that is known as a depolarization. And if there is a entry of anion inside the cell, that will cause a increase in the potential of your increase in the negative potential of your cell, and that is nothing but the hyperpolarization. So you should be clear about what is depolarization and what is the hyperpolarization. कि सेल के अंदर न्यूरोनल सेल जो होता है उसके अंदर नेगेटिव पोटेंशियल मेंटेन होता है. So that is nothing but around, you should know what is meant by depolarization and hyperpolarization. Now see, there is a entry of sodium ion channel inside the cell. That is, the entry means influx. So there is an increase in influx of sodium ion inside the cell. Okay, or you can at the same time you can remove the potassium ion from the inside the cell to the outside. Okay, so sodium is a extracellular cation, potassium is a intracellular cation. Inside the cell negativity is maintained. So once there is an entry of sodium inside the cell, there is a disturbance in that polarity of inside cell. Or once there is an exit of potassium inside from the cell to the outside, so that is also a disturbance in the negative potential of cells. So that is nothing but the depolarization. So entry or exit of calcium, entry of sodium inside the cell or exit of potassium from the cell. So both leads to stimulation or excitation or increase in the activity of neuronal cell. That is nothing but the depolarization. Sodium influx or potassium efflux, that will leads to a stimulation or excitation as a result of depolarization. It happens in the neuronal cell usually. Okay, then again, influx of the chloride ion channel, influx of the chloride ion and efflux of the your potassium ion, that will result in the inhibition or depression of the neuronal cell as a result of hyperpolarization. As I have already explained, अगर सोडियम इनसाइड सेल के अंदर जाता है, आपके सेल में इनसाइड द न्यूरोनल सेल जो है उसका इनसाइड पोटेंशियल क्या है, माइनस 20 to 100 मिलीवोल्ट. अगर सोडियम जाए तो उसमें डिस्टर्बेंस हो जाएगा, दैट इज नोन एज डीपोलराइजेशन. सोडियम इज एक्स्ट्रा सेलुलर कैटायन, पोटेशियम इज इंट्रासेलुलर कैटायन. सो पोटेशियम इनसाइड रहता है, अगर पोटेशियम बाहर आ गया तो उसमें भी उसका डिस्टर्बेंस हो जाएगा, दैट इज नोन एज डीपोलराइजेशन. अगर कैल्शियम का इन्फ्लक्स, क्लोराइड का इन्फ्लक्स, क्लोराइड आयन अगर ज्यादा अंदर जाता है तो उसमें क्या होगा, हाइपरपोलराइजेशन होगा और उसमें इनिबिशन हो जाएगा या फिर डिप्रेशन हो जाएगा. मतलब अगर सोडियम अंदर गया तो स्टिमुलेशन क्लोराइड अगर अंदर गया ज्यादा तो उसको बोलते हैं इनिबिशन. ओके, सो एक्साइटेशन, stimulation excitation as a result of depolarization, inhibition or depression as a result of hyperpolarization. You should know this. So how there is a depolarization and hyperpolarization, whether it is a, what will happen after depolarization, there will be stimulation action. Okay, so there will be excitation, stimulation excitation, or there will be increase in the activity of neuronal cell. So if chloride is going inside, that is chloride influx, that will result in the hyperpolarization of your inside cell membrane, that will result in the inhibitory action or depression action, or decreasing the activity of neuronal cell. In the first case, when sodium will go inside the cell, that will create and conduct a nerve impulse. When chloride will go inside the cell, that will not conduct or create a your impulse, right? That is the main thing. And whole CNS, whole drug acting on CNS, all the chapters that are included in the drug acting on CNS, they are based on these two fundamentals. क्या हो रहा है, कौन अंदर जा रहा है, कौन बाहर जा रहा है, इसके ऊपर ये सब कुछ पूरा चैप्टर आपका डिपेंड है. So there are different ion channels. There are different ion channels in the central nervous system. So what are they? Basically there are two types of ion channels present in the CNS. Okay, so first one is a voltage gated ion channel, and second one is a ligand gated ion channel. Voltage gated ion channel and second one is a transmitter gated or ligand gated ion channels. So what we will see what are those. So voltage gated में क्या हो रहा है, voltage gated ion channels, they are regulated by changes in the membrane potential, changes in the transmembrane potential. Transmembrane किसका, न्यूरोनल सेल का. So voltage gated channel they are regulated by changes in the membrane potential. कि membrane potential का transmembrane potential अगर change होता है तो उसमें उसको बोलते हैं voltage gated ion channels. Okay, so entry of sodium or exit of potassium, entry of chloride, exit of potassium. So these are nothing but the voltage gated. Okay, sodium is a cation, chloride is an anion, potassium is a cation. So there is a charge over there. So that is nothing but the voltage. So it is a voltage gated ion channels. Okay, so axonal sodium channel, न्यूरॉन जो होता है उसका एक्सॉन जो होता है उसमें सोडियम चैनल्स रहते हैं. एक्सोनल सोडियम चैनल्स फॉर द प्रोपगेशन ऑफ इम्पल्स, इट इज अ एग्जांपल ऑफ वोल्टेज गेटेड आयन चैनल. And then again it is present in the sodium channels are present in the axon of your neuronal cell. Then again presynaptic calcium channels, I have explained about the what is synapse. So presynaptic means another neuron. Okay, so synapse is nothing but the little bit gap between two neuronal cells. Okay, so presynaptic calcium channels are also there, that is also a voltage gated channels, voltage gated ion channels. So presynaptic calcium channels release of neurotransmitter from the synaptic vessel. So there are two kind of voltage gated ion channels in the neuronal cell. First one is the sodium channel which is present in the axonal membrane of your nerve cell, right? And second one is a presynaptic calcium channels. What is the role of your sodium channels? They will conduct the impulse. What is the role of calcium channel? So calcium channel presynaptically जो present होता है उसका क्या रोल है? So presynaptic calcium channel has a role in the release of neurotransmitter, right? So वहाँ पे जो vesicles होता है जिसमें neurotransmitter synthesize किया जाता है, स्टोर किया जाता है. So what those synaptic vesicles are present in the synapse where there is a synthesis and storage of neurotransmitter. So they are released by calcium ion channels. That is also one of the voltage gated ion channels. Now next one is a transmitter, that is a receptor gated or receptor regulated ion channels. That is nothing but the ligand gated ion channels. Okay, so transmitter gated or receptor regulated or ligand gated ion channels. So those are regulated by neurotransmitter interaction with the respective receptor. कि उसमें क्या होगा कि न्यूरोट्रांसमीटर पहले रिलीज होगा, जैसे कैल्शियम के बारे में बोला मैंने, कैल्शियम चैनल के जैसे न्यूरोट्रांसमीटर रिलीज होता है वो उसके रिसेप्टर पे आके जाके एक्ट होगा. और उस रिसेप्टर का नेचर कैसा है, वो रिसेप्टर कौन सा है, वेदर दे आर आयन चैनल्स और नॉट, ये वैसे एक्ट करेगा. देयर आर टू टाइप्स ऑफ आयन चैनल्स इन द सीएनएस, वोल्टेज गेटेड एंड लिगैंड गेटेड और रिसेप्टर गेटेड। मतलब रिसेप्टर न्यूरोट्रांसमीटर रिलीज हो जाएगा, उसके बाद में वो रिसेप्टर के जाके उसकी कंबाइन करेगा रिस्पेक्ट टू रिसेप्टर। वो जो रिसेप्टर है वो रिसेप्टर में भी आयन चैनल और that may be a G protein coupled receptor ion channel, likewise that. So there are two kinds of voltage gate, there are two kinds of ion channels in the CNS. Is that clear? We'll see what are these. So voltage gated ion channels, okay, so they are present in the neuronal axonal membrane of your neuron, okay, and calcium channels, they are present in the presynaptic membrane. Okay. Now these channels are the targets for few drug acting on CNS. So for example, some anesthetics and anticonvulsant drugs, they will block these channels. So some and mostly anticonvulsant drug, they will block the voltage gated ion channels, and anesthetics drugs also, they will also block the voltage gated ion channels, and some of them will block the calcium channel, presynaptic calcium channels. So you can see here, so it is a, you can see here it is a just your neuronal cell membrane. Okay, these drugs, anesthetic and anticonvulsant, few anticonvulsants and anesthetic drug, they will block the entry of sodium inside the cell. So for example, this is the external side, this is the internal side. There is a entry of sodium inside the cell, so it will be blocked by these kind of drugs. The voltage gated ion channel is present in there. Okay, so that will be blocked by few drugs. So these are the targets. Then second one is a neurotransmitter regulated ion channels or ligand gated ion channels. For example, direct coupling of neurotransmitter with the ion channels. For example, GABA neurotransmitter like gamma aminobutyric acid. It is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. We will explain in the next slide. But just remember, GABA has a direct coupling with ion channels. So stimulation of GABA will increase the flow of then glutamate also, glycine also, acetylcholine also. So these are the targets for some anesthetic, anticonvulsant, sedative hypnotics and cholinergic drugs. So here you can see in this image. So it is a neuronal membrane. So here is a receptor. So here once neurotransmitter is released over here, so neurotransmitter will go, it will act on receptor, and now that receptor will activate the ion channel. So first case में क्या हो रहा था, यहाँ डायरेक्ट आयन चैनल था, ओके, दैट इज नोन एज अ वोल्टेज गेटेड आयन चैनल. यहाँ पे क्या है, डायरेक्ट नहीं है, यहाँ पे पहले न्यूरोट्रांसमीटर रिलीज होगा, वो रिसेप्टर पे वो रिएक्ट करेगा, उसके रिस्पेक्ट टू रिसेप्टर के ऊपर जाके कंबाइन होगा, और वो रिसेप्टर फिर आयन चैनल को एक्टिवेट करेगा. दैट इज नथिंग बट द लिगैंड गेटेड आयन चैनल्स, राइट. So this one is the second one. Now third one is a neurotransmitter regulated ion channels which is coupled with a G protein coupled receptor. So G protein coupled receptor जो है उसके ऊपर मतलब जो भी न्यूरोट्रांसमीटर है, जी न्यूरोट्रांसमीटर रिलीज होने के बाद उसका जो रिसेप्टर है, अगर वो G protein coupled receptor है तो वो कैसे एक्ट करेगा. So example like acetylcholine, dopamine, noradrenaline, serotonin, then endorphins. So these are the examples of neurotransmitter regulated ion channel which are coupled with the G protein coupled receptor, okay, and these are the targets for analgesics, antidepressant and antipsychotics, anxiolytic drugs. So here you can see it is a neuronal membrane, it is the external side, okay. So neurotransmitter will be released, it will act on the receptor, so which is a G protein coupled receptor. It will activate the G protein coupled receptor. G protein coupled receptor will activate the secondary messengers like these secondary messengers like cyclic AMP, then inositol pyrophosphate, diacetyl glycerol and calcium. So these are the secondary messengers. इसके ऊपर भी एक बार क्वेश्चन आया था, which one of the following is not a secondary messenger? So you have to remember all the secondary messengers. Which are these? These are nothing but the cyclic AMP, inositol pyrophosphate, inositol phosphate, then diacetyl glycerol, then calcium. Okay, so these are the secondary messengers. Okay, इसके ऊपर लास्ट ईयर क्वेश्चन आया था जीपैट में कि सेकेंडरी मैसेंजर विच वन ऑफ द फॉलोइंग इज नॉट अ सेकेंडरी मैसेंजर. तो आपको मालूम होना चाहिए सेकेंडरी मैसेंजर कौन से, साइक्लिक एएमपी, उसके बाद इनोसिटोल पायरोफॉस्फेट, देन डाइएसाइल ग्लिसरॉल एंड कैल्शियम. उसके बाद में क्या होगा, वंस योर न्यूरोट्रांसमीटर रिलीज, इट विल एक्ट ऑन रिसेप्टर व्हिच इज द जी प्रोटीन कपल्ड रिसेप्टर. इट विल एक्टिवेट द सेकेंडरी मैसेंजर, दे विल कॉज अ प्रोटीन फॉस्फोरिलेशन एंड दे अगेन एक्टिवेट और इनहिबिट आयन चैनल. ओके, सो यहाँ पे डायरेक्ट आयन चैनल था, वोल्टेज गेटेड आयन चैनल, यहाँ पे रिसेप्टर कपल्ड विद द आयन चैनल, यहाँ पे आयन चैनल कपल्ड विद द जी प्रोटीन कपल्ड रिसेप्टर. सो यहाँ पे जी प्रोटीन कपल्ड, तो फॉस्फोरिलेशन होगा, इट विल एक्टिवेट और इनएक्टिवेट द आयन चैनल, देन इट विल it will cause entry or exit of ion channels. It will lead to long term effect. This is the immediate effect. This voltage gated channel is immediate effect, and it will last for only short time. Okay, so its effect will be last for long time. So those ion channel which are coupled with the G protein coupled receptor, they will last for long time. So voltage gated ion channels will act on in a millisecond. Okay, so they will act very quickly and in a millisecond. What are the different kind of neurotransmitter present in the brain? Okay, so this slide is very important. There are different numerous neurotransmitter कि ब्रेन में कितने न्यूरोट्रांसमीटर होते हैं, उसका रोल क्या है, उसका नेचर क्या है, ये एक बार आपको समझ में आ गया तो आपको इजीली फार्माकोलॉजी समझ में आएगा. ठीक है, सो दिस स्लाइड इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. सो हियर आई हैव मेड वन टेबल neurotransmitter and their nature or mechanism. Okay, so we'll see one by one. So there are numerous neurotransmitters like glutamic acid, then gamma aminobutyric acid, acetylcholine, dopamine, noradrenaline, serotonin, and some peptides are there, endogenous peptides, or they are known as a pain receptors. Okay, so we will discuss it one by one. So what is glutamic acid? So glutamic acid is present in the brain and spinal cord. Okay, so it is a basically stimulatory in nature. So it is basically stimulatory in nature. So glutamic acid is basically stimulatory in nature. It will increase the calcium ion influx. It will increase the cation influx, sodium, potassium, calcium. Okay, glutamic acid will increase the influx. Influx means entry of cations inside the cell. It will increase the entry of cation inside the cell. So they are nothing but the directly coupled with ion channels, or they may be coupled with the G protein coupled receptor. Okay, so glutamic acid, it is a neurotransmitter. So now example is NMDA receptor. NMDA means N-methyl deasparated receptor. So it is one of the target for ketamine. So that is a general anesthetic drug. Ketamine will block the NMDA receptor. So it will act on a glutamic acid. Then again, next one is a gamma aminobutyric acid. So GABA is a inhibitory in nature. So GABA neurotransmitter is a inhibitory in nature. It will decrease the excitability. Okay, so it will increase your chloride ion influx or potassium efflux. Means ये क्या करेगा, गाबा इनिबिटरी है, जो कि इनिबिटरी नेचर है न्यूरोट्रांसमीटर. वो क्या करेगा कि क्लोराइड आयन चैनल ओपन कर देगा और एक्स्ट्रा सेलुलर क्लोराइड आयन इनसाइड जाएगा. मतलब क्लोराइड अगर ज्यादा अंदर जाएगा तो निगेटिविटी बढ़ जाएगा और उसमें सप्रेशन हो जाएगा, इंपल्स कैरी नहीं होगा. या फिर क्लोराइड का इफ्लक्स पोटेशियम का इफ्लक्स करेगा, मतलब पोटेशियम को बाहर निकलेगा. क्लोराइड को अंदर डालेगा एक तो ज्यादा क्वांटिटी में, या फिर पोटेशियम को बाहर निकलेगा. ठीक है, तो दोनों केस में क्या होगा, हाइपर पोलराइजेशन होगा. सो गाबा में बी डायरेक्ट कपलिंग विद द आयन चैनल्स. इट मे बी आइदर कपल्ड डायरेक्टली विद द आयन चैनल्स. most of the time it is directly coupled to the ion channels. Okay, then again level is increased by this GABA is also target for various kind of drugs like sedatives, hypnotics, anticonvulsants, muscle relaxants. So these drugs will either increase the concentration of GABA directly by acting on GABAergic receptors, or they will act as a GABA agonist. So they will increase the level of GABA. Which kind of drug? Sedative, hypnotics, anticonvulsant, and some muscle relaxants. The next one is a acetylcholine. Okay, so acetylcholine is a parasympathetic neurotransmitter. Okay, so it has a different receptor like M1, muscarinic receptor, and nicotinic receptor. So muscarinic receptor is also classified into two types: M1, M2, M3. Nicotinic receptor are classified into NM and NN. So that is another part. When we will discuss the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, I will explain you. So just remember over here, acetylcholine is having different receptors. Okay, so out of this muscarinic receptor M1, okay, so M1 is a stimulatory in nature, and this M1 receptor will decrease the calcium efflux via secondary messenger known as a diacylglycerol. Okay, so it is a G protein coupled likewise that. Then again M2 is a inhibitory in nature. M1 is a stimulatory, M2 is inhibitory. So M2 will increase the calcium efflux. M2 will increase the potassium efflux via CMP as a secondary messenger. Nicotinic receptor of acetylcholine, they are also stimulatory in nature, and they will increase the influx of sodium. Okay, they will increase the entry of sodium inside the cell. These are the targets for different drugs like sympathetic drugs, parasympathetic drugs. Okay, so sympathomimetics, parasympathomimetics, sympatholytics, parasympathomimetics, parasympatholytics. These drugs will act on these receptors. Okay, so acetylcholinesterase inhibitors or cholinesterase inhibitors. They are also these drugs will also act on these acetylcholine receptors. Then Alzheimer's drug used in the Alzheimer's disease and drug used in the Parkinson disease. These are also target for this drug. Okay, so these receptor, acetylcholine receptor, muscarinic, M1, M2, nicotinic receptor, these are the targets for acetylcholine esterase inhibitor drugs, then Alzheimer's drugs, then anti-Parkinson drugs. Now, next one is the dopamine. So, dopamine is also one of the neurotransmitter in the brain. Okay, so it is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. It is inhibitory neurotransmitter. It will decrease the neuronal functioning. Okay, dopamine. So, receptor. So, inhibitory neurotransmitter. Receptor subtypes. There are different subtypes of this dopamine receptor D1, D2, D3, D4, D5. Okay, they are coupled with the G protein, and again secondary messenger. They are linked with the secondary messenger like cyclic AMP. Okay, so activity increase or decrease. Few drugs are there. They will increase or decrease the activity to dopamine. Dopamine. What are those drugs? So CNS stimulant, anti-Parkinson drug. Okay, so these drugs, CNS stimulant, anti-Parkinson drug, then antipsychotics, they will decrease the activity of dopamine. Okay, they will decrease the activity of dopamine. So that is nothing but the, so it is also a neurotransmitter. The next one is a noradrenaline. So noradrenaline is a neurotransmitter of sympathetic nervous system. Okay, so it has a both types, stimulatory as well as a inhibitory in nature. So there are different receptors of noradrenaline. जो नॉर एड्रेनलिन होता है उसका डिफरेंट रिसेप्टर्स होता है. जैसे आपका अल्फा रिसेप्टर हो गया, बीटा रिसेप्टर हो गया. सो अल्फा में भी दो टाइप होता है, अल्फा 1, अल्फा 2. बीटा रिसेप्टर में भी सब टाइप्स होता है, बीटा 1, बीटा 2, बीटा 3. सम ऑफ देम आर स्टिमुलेटरी, some of them are inhibitory in nature. Again, they are also G protein coupled receptors. So these receptors also are targets for few drugs like CNS stimulants, then antidepressants, then some anxiolytics, sorry, sympathomimetic drugs and sympatholytic drugs. So these are also target. Then again, next one is a serotonin, that is known as a 5-HT, 5-hydroxytryptamine or serotonin. So it is a stimulatory in nature, or sometimes it is inhibitory in nature, but means it has a dual role. It is stimulatory as well as inhibitory. So depending upon the receptor subtypes, it has a different receptor, 5-HT 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, likewise that. So out of these 5-HT receptors, so 5-HT 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so there are subtypes of 5-HT receptors. So out of this 5-HT3 receptor is nothing but the ion channel receptor. Rest of the receptors are nothing but the G protein coupled receptor. So ये यहाँ पे याद रखो कि 5-HT जो है उसके जो receptors होते हैं, जो पांच receptors है उसके 5-HT1, 5-HT2, 5-HT3, 5-HT4. तो उसमें क्या एक receptor ऐसा है कि जो ion channel है, कौन सा है? 5-HT3. ठीक है, तो 5-HT3 out of serotonin receptor is a ion channel. So rest of the are G protein coupled receptor. कि बाकी के जो है G protein है और ये ion channel है. इसके ऊपर भी एक बार क्वेश्चन आया था. So out of there was a few receptors given. So identify the ion channel receptor from the following. So there was a 5-HT1, 5-HT2, 5-HT3, 5-HT4, 5-HT5. Okay, so out of these 5-HT3 is a ion channel and others are the G protein coupled receptor. Okay, so these are also a target for certain drugs like antidepressant, anxiolytics, etc., CNS stimulants. So those drugs will also act on these receptors. Okay, then last one is your endogenous peptides, or it is known as a peptide hormones. Okay, peptide neurotransmitters. Sorry. Okay, peptide neurotransmitters. So they are also inhibitory in nature, and they are also having different subtypes. They are coupled with the secondary messengers, and they are also targets for opioid analgesic. They are known as most of them are responsible for the pain sensation. जितने भी पेप्टाइड्स है जैसे एंडोर्फिन हो गया, एनकेपेलिन हो गया, so these peptides are the responsible for the pain sensation, and that's why they are the targets for opioid analgesic. So once you got the targets, you can easily understand the mechanism of action and you can easily classify the drug also. So these are the different neurotransmitters. Those are present in the brain with their role and functions. Okay. Again, next slide is also a little bit same. Okay. ये भी slide same ही, different neurotransmitters and their functions. So this slide is present in the book. You can read. Okay. So what is the distribution and all that? Just like that. कि कौन सा न्यूरोट्रांसमीटर कहाँ पे है, कोई स्पाइनल कॉर्ड में है, कोई ब्रेन में है, या फिर कोई दोनों जगह पे है, ठीक है, या फिर कोई लिम्बिक सिस्टम में है, या फिर कहाँ पे है, ठीक है। सो यहाँ पे इतना याद रखो कि जो गामा एमाइनोब्यूटेरिक एसिड एंड ग्लाइसिन होता है वो दे आर द इनहिबिटरी न्यूरोट्रांसमीटर, एंड ग्लूटामिक एसिड, aspartic acid, then that is stimulatory in nature. So ये slide में नहीं ले रहा हूँ, we'll directly jump to the next slide. So here here is a general anesthetics. So we'll see the general anesthetic. Before that I would just see here in this so there are different drugs like anxiolytic, then sedative hypnotics, then general anesthetics. These drugs mostly these drugs are having these drug belongs to same category like benzodiazepines, barbiturates. Okay, अगर आपने benzodiazepine का example ले लिया तो benzodiazepine will act as a anxiolytic in small doses, very small doses. Same drug will act as a sedative if dose is increased. Same drug will act as an anticonvulsant if dose is increased. Same drug will act as an anesthetic if dose is increased. So they have a dose dependent action. So you can see here कि मान लीजिए कि डायजिपाम है आपका, डायजिपाम जो है वो 10 मिलीग्राम के 10 मिलीग्राम पर डे के हिसाब से अगर लिया तो दैट विल एक्ट एज एंटी एंजियोलाइटिक दैट विल रिलीव योर एंजाइटी इफ डोज इज इंक्रीज 10 to 50 milligram. Okay, then it will act as a hypnotic that will induce the sleep. If dose is increased to 100 mg or 200 mg, that will act as a anesthetic. They are having dose dependent actions. Now we'll see general anesthetics. So general anesthetics or inhalation anesthetic. So before that I would like to explain you few terms. So what do you mean by anxiolytic? What do you mean by sedative? What do you mean by hypnotic? What do you mean by anesthetic? What do you mean by anticonvulsant? So what do you mean by anxiolytics? Anxiolytics means those drugs which will decrease your anxiety, those drugs which will decrease your excitement, those drugs which will decrease your nervousness. So anxiety means what? अगर आपको कहीं भी लेक्चर देना है और फर्स्ट टाइम लेक्चर देने के लिए आप जा रहे हो तो आपके मन में एक अजीब सा डर होता है, अजीब सा एक एक्साइटमेंट होती है या डर होता है, मतलब एंजाइटी होती है आपके मन में, एक थोड़ा सा चल विचल होता है, उसको बोलते हैं एंजाइटी. सो दोज ड्रग विच विल डिक्रीज योर एंजाइटी दे आर नोन एज एंजियोलाइटिक्स. So those drugs which will induce a sleep, anxiety. Okay. The next term is your sedative. Those drugs which will calm your nerve. Those drugs which will decrease your excitability of nerve, but not induce the sleep. That is known as a sedative. Hypnotic means what? Hypnotic drugs are the drugs which will induce the sleep, resembling to the natural sleep. अगर कोई ड्रग आपको आपके नर्व्स को काम करता है, आपका एक्साइटमेंट कम करता है तो उसको बोलेंगे एंजियोलाइटिक. अगर कोई ड्रग आपका नर्व्स को डिप्रेस करता है लेकिन आप स्लीप होना जैसे फील करते हो लेकिन स्लीप नहीं करते हो, उसको बोलते हैं सेडेटिव. हिप्नोटिक्स से बोलते हैं अगर कोई ड्रग आपको लेते ही आपको नींद आ जाएगी, उसको बोलते हैं हिप्नोटिक्स. एंड अनेस्थेटिक्स मींस व्हाट? So if any drug is able to induce the loss of sensation, if drug is able to lose your all the sensation like pain sensation, touch sensation, जितने भी आपके sensations होते हैं टच का, पेन का, अगर कोई ड्रग उसको बंद कर देता है और स्लीप इंड्यूस कर देता है, ओके,